Hey, GAP Math students, we have our last objectives for Intro to Percents, Ratios, and Proportions. So have that packet out. We are looking at objectives 86 and 87, dealing with unit rate. So this will be pretty quick, and then the test for this will be a smaller one, just a 10-question test. So let's go through, and I think all we need to do is 4 problems. So we won't even get off this first page. So let's get those, and then we'll talk about what to practice. We're going to look at 19 first. It says he receives weekly allowance for doing chores around the house. He saves his money for 14 weeks. After 14 weeks, he saves $196. How much money does Luis get for his allowance each week? Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing this. A way that will look a lot like what we're just have been doing with proportions, and then kind of a shortcut for a unit rate. So what we're looking for, if we're doing it kind of the same as these other proportions, we would look for, we have a known pair, which is the 14 weeks, goes along with the $196. And the other part, we don't see another number here, but anytime they say it asks for like each week or per week, and that could be like the next problem we're not doing, but per hour or each hour. Anytime they say that, that means for, in this case, 1 week. Okay. If they say each or per, that means for 1. Okay. So the known pair is 14 weeks. We get $196. We want to know, well, what is that for 1? Okay. So I'm going to do it proportion way first. So if we take the unknown pair and the parts of the unknown pair, it's money and weeks. Now, we know this by looking at the answer, but there's a certain, you could solve this by doing it either order, money over weeks or weeks over money. But when the answers are given money per week, we want what it says first on top and what it says second on the bottom. Okay, now the unknown pair is, we want to know for 1 week how much money he gets. So that's what we don't know, and then we match that up with the known pair. Okay, the 14 would go on the bottom because that represents the number of weeks. The money is 196. Okay, so now we solve this the same way we've solved them in the past. We do the cross multiply and divide. Okay, so we take the, now this is easy multiplication. We take the diagonal with 2 numbers. So it's 196 times 1. And we divide by the third number. Well, 196 times 1 is just 196. Okay, and then we take that divided by 14, and we get 14. So meaning 14 times 14 is 196. So if he gets $14 a week for 14 weeks, he ends up with $196. What this ends up, there is a shortcut for unit rates. Okay, and it's because of, when you're finding a unit rate, you're always finding it for 1 either week or 1 hour, or if we look down below here, miles per gallon means miles per 1 gallon. Because that bottom number here is always going to be 1, the cross multiply is always just times 1, and then you divide by the other number. So the other way to do this, the shortcut, you could always set up a proportion if that's making sense, or you look at, in this case, we are looking for money per week. This will go on the top, this goes on the bottom, and you just divide. So we don't have to set up a proportion. We just take money on the top, $196 in 14 weeks. You just divide and you get your 14 per week. Okay, which is here. So let's do another one that's just like that. So we're going to skip a couple problems. We'll come back to a couple of these. We're going to look at, number 20 will be very similar to this one. So we'll skip that one for now. 22 is also the same type of problem, but it doesn't deal with money. So we're going to look at that one. He wants to find out how many miles per gallon of gas per car gets on average. So that's kind of an important thing. A lot of people want a car that gets better miles per gallon. So last week she drove 266 miles and used 7 gallons. So that would be like our known pair. It says how many miles per gallon, or remember that's like saying per 1 gallon did the car get on average. So if we're doing proportion, okay, the unknown pair is, we're looking for, I automatically was doing money stuff. It's not a money problem. We are looking miles for 1 gallon. So miles and gallons. So we want to know how many miles does it get in 1 gallon. The known pair, it says you get 266 miles. So we have miles on top for 7 gallons. So now we cross multiply and divide. So 266 times 1 divided by the third number. So that gives you 266 divided by 7. And it comes out to be 38 miles per gallon. Okay, so the shortcut, remember, the answer, we want to find miles per gallon. And so it's very similar to the proportion. The first goes on top, the second goes on bottom when it says miles per gallon. We just take that known pair, and it's 38 miles per gallon. And that's it. Okay, so that's the first type of problem, is finding the unit rate. Okay, next type of problem will be using a unit rate to find an answer. And these just end up being proportions is the easiest way to do it. So an example would be number 21. A truck driver is hauling furniture from moving job. He determines that the average speed is 53 miles per hour. It will take 12 hours to get to his destination. How many miles? Okay, so the unknown pair is, it's going to be 12 hours, and we want to know how many miles. Okay, and it might look like, well, I only have one number, I don't have a known pair. But remember, this would be the same as saying 53 miles per 1 hour. Okay, so, and that miles and hours matches up with the unknown pair. We have 12 hours and we want to know how many miles. So I'm going to set it up the way that it's kind of used in the unit rate here. So this is the unit rate. 53 miles per hour means 53 miles per 1 hour. Okay. Now there's other ways you can go about solving this, but I think this is just the easiest way with what we've been looking at, 53 per 1 hour. And it says 12 hours, so we want to put that down below. Okay, and we want to know how many miles that is. So we take cross multiply, divide by the third, so 53 times 12, 636. Divide by that third number, which is this one, is 636. Now there is kind of a shortcut way. If this just totally makes sense to you and say, well, we go 53 miles every hour and we got 12 hours, so I'm going 53 miles 12 times, and that's totally fine. You can do that. Okay, if that makes sense to you, when you read that, saying, okay, 53 miles, 1 hour, we're going 1 hour 12 times because it's 12 hours, so then I multiply. Okay, that's totally fine. Do it that way. Okay, you can do it this way. If you're confused on what should I multiply, should I divide, what should I do, then you would set up the proportion. Because if they would give you miles and said how long, then it would look different and you would end up dividing. But this works totally fine, if that makes sense to you. Let's do one more that's like this one and we'll be done. We're going to look at number 23. He wants to install new carpeting in the living room. The cost of the carpet he wants is $21 per square yard. The living room has an area of 70 square yards. How much will it cost to carpet the living room? Okay, so if I do it proportion way, remember this is $21 per 1 square yard. Okay, and then the unknown is we have square yards and we want to know cost. So this is cost per square yard. The unknown is 70 square yards. And how much will it cost? So it matches up, square yards and cost. So we're going to go money over square yards. And we can do the unknown pair first, or you can do the known pair first. It doesn't know. The unknown pair would be 70 square yards, goes down here, and we want to know the cost. And then the pair that we know is $21 per 1 square yard. Okay, so cross multiply and divide. Take the diagonal with two numbers. 70 times 21, divide by the third. 70 times 21 is 1,470 divided by the third number, still just gives you $1,470. Now again, you could look at this, and if this makes sense to you, you could say, well, it's $21 per 1 square yard, and I have 70 square yards. So I have to pay $21 for every square yard, and I have 70 of those. So I have to pay $21 70 times. You multiply, and you would get this. That would also make sense. Okay, so either one of those. So did 2 examples of each type of problem. There's plenty of other problems you could do here. Go ahead, try those, and see which ones, if you have any questions, ask. Otherwise, after you've taken the notes and send me the pictures, you can ask for the test. And that'll be the last one for the intro to percents, ratios, and proportions. So again, if you have any questions, let me know.